morning and welcome to Invest Northwest this Sunday morning. I'm Sean Owsley, and this morning we focus on the key financial stories dominating headlines for Washington State. And here to talk about them in depth, the newly elected Vice Chair of the House Republican Conference, representing the 5th District, Congresswoman Cathy McMorris Rodgers. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for your time this morning. We really appreciate it. There's a lot happening right now, especially a lot of news coming out this week. And specifically want to focus on something that has been key in the news all week long. It is aerospace and state money. And I want to give you some numbers. A recent Washington State-funded report conducted by Deloitte Consulting breaks down the aerospace industry's foundational importance to the state economy like this. $36 billion in total annual impact, 8% of direct and indirect jobs, salaries that are more than double the average of all industries. South and North Carolinas, Texas, and Kansas all actively right now trying to supplant Washington as an aerospace leader, and they are gaining traction. The governor, of course, making a push to recruit and retain aerospace business here in the state. Your reaction? This is a very, very tumultuous time right now as far as aerospace and funding here for Washington State.
Absolutely. And here locally we have Fairchild Air Force Base, which is the largest employer in Spokane County. We have the KC-135s that are in desperate need of replacement, and it all plays in, and we're hoping that Boeing will get the contract, which is important to Washington State's economy. I've had some conversations with the governor about what's happening with the aerospace industry. When I was in the state legislature back in 2003, I was the minority leader for the House Republicans, and during that time Boeing was looking at possibly building the Dreamliner, the 787, someplace else. And there was a lot of talk about Washington State's competitiveness, what's happening in Washington State. Boeing had moved its headquarters from Seattle to Chicago, and there was just a lot of concern. And we did a cost of doing business in the 27 states that Boeing operated, and we found in some ways Washington State was competitive. In other ways, in other areas, there was room for improvement. We were very high on unemployment costs, workers' compensation costs. We're the only state that has the B&O, but we're very low on energy cost, electricity costs, and that's very important when you're building a plane. So I think it is so important that we continue to focus on Washington State's competitiveness to make sure that companies like Boeing and all of the other companies that are tied to the aerospace industry in Washington State can be competitive, and that they'll want to stay here for many years to come.
Well, I want to focus on the KC-135 and the tanker contract in depth in a second, but I want to read to you, the study also showed Washington's disadvantages right now outweighing the advantages when it comes to attracting and retaining aerospace companies. Many of the state's disadvantages come as no surprise to you in political circles: high wages, difficult union relations, and a high cost of living. How do you rectify that? How do you remedy that problem right now?
Well, I think that there's ways that the state government can focus on making Washington more competitive, and you point to our business climate in general. The high unemployment taxes, workers' comp taxes, those are areas where we're number 1 in unemployment taxes. I think we're number 4 in workers' comp, and we just need to make sure that we have an environment where businesses can be successful. We need to make sure that we're training a workforce so that we have the best workforce available for companies like Boeing. And I've been concerned about the dropout rate. For example, a third of our kids are dropping out of high school. They're not even graduating, let alone pursuing the fields of math and science and engineering that's so important to building a plane. And I hear that from employers, that they need a workforce that is highly trained now, and we need to make sure that our education system is helping make that happen. And then when we do the analysis of how we compare with other states, we're going to rank higher.
It's a tough proposition right now. Let's focus specifically on the controversial military tanker contract. In February of 2008, Defense Department awards that to Northrop Airbus Consortium.
Yes.
Obviously, that sparked a big outrage and controversy. It was then fought by Boeing, among others, as well as political figures, big-name political figures, and then was pulled back off the table. The KC-135 obviously is the workhorse operating out of Fairchild right here in our backyard. That plane was built during the Eisenhower-Kennedy era.
Yes.
Okay, that is a plane that is meant to last 20 years. We're told, even if you award the contract today, some of those planes, the older ones, could be in the air 80 years, not meant for that. How big of a concern is that for you?
Oh, it is. It's a huge concern. Fairchild Air Force Base is the super tanker base of the West. We are the only base, tanker base, west of the Mississippi. So this is very important to our region. It's important to the Air Force. When you talk to the Defense Department, when you talk to the Air Force, they'll tell you getting this tanker replaced is their #1 priority. It's the #1 priority of the Air Force, and it's the #1 priority of the Department of Defense. You know, they talk about they'll talk about F-22s and other
but it's
planes.
The KC-135.
But the KC-135 is the key, because the KC-135, the tanker, is like the gas station in the sky. So no matter where we go, they need to be able to fill up, and getting these tankers replaced is important. And to your point, you know, it's like driving a 1957 Chevy. You might want to own one, but you don't necessarily drive it every day. You pick and choose, and you would think twice about driving it across the country. And no matter how good of condition it is, it still is an old car. And that's the plane. These KC-135s were built in the era of the 1957 Chevy, and they're in desperate need of replacement. We've been vigilant as far as really keeping this on the forefront. Spokane, Greater Spokane Incorporated has Forward Fairchild, which is a community group that is dedicated to just making sure we're doing everything in this community to communicate to the Department of Defense our support of replacing the 135 and making sure that they come to Fairchild.
Everything we've talked about has a ripple effect for the economy, both statewide and here regionally and locally in the Spokane area. I took a quote from your website. It says, "My top priority right now is growing jobs, improving the economy. I'm well aware of the economic challenges facing families, farmers, small businesses across eastern Washington. I believe we need to take immediate steps to remedy that." What are those steps? What are you seeing? Are we getting any traction right now?
We need to be focused on policies that are going to help small businesses succeed. And as I talk to small business owners, quite often they're asking me, you know, does anyone in Congress recognize how tough it is? The fact that we are having to tighten our belt. We're, in some cases, having to lay people off. And we need to, in Congress, focus on policies that are going to help our small business owners be successful. We're going to have a forum coming up in Spokane where we're going to focus on both what's available to help small businesses, as well as talk with them about what Congress could actually be doing that would really help them. And policies like what's the proper tax burden in this country. You know, we have the second highest corporate tax anywhere in the world, and that drives to the heart of America's competitiveness and whether businesses can be successful. We need to take a look at our regulatory climate and make sure that it's one where we're really trying to help small businesses succeed. And you know, as far as if we're making progress, I think the economy is on the forefront of everyone's minds right now.
I do want to ask you about the economy, because just this week, the Fed Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke says might be starting to see some glimmers of hope, some kind of softening of the free fall.
Yes.
Is that what you're hearing in your circles as well? And do you feel optimistic that way as well, as far as financially? Because everybody has their eyes on Wall Street. Everybody wants to see that recovery come, because so many families here in our area are having such a difficult day-to-day time.
Oh, yes. We're seeing unemployment rates increase. I am hopeful. I know that more than anything, we need people to have some confidence in the economy.
Spend some money.
Spend some money. Make some investments. And right now, by and large, people are holding on to their assets. They don't, you know, they're not confident to actually, you know, take a risk. And that is what is going to really get the economy going. We see some signs, some encouraging signs. I'm hopeful. I think, you know, some of it might just be spring, and you know, and we're all happy that it's spring. And I you know, we need to be seeing some indicators that really show a longer term positive economic growth.
All right, Congresswoman Cathy McMorris Rodgers, thanks so much for being with us this morning. We know you're busy. We appreciate your time and your insight on these issues.
Thank you.
All right.